Hamjambo and welcome everybody to the Flutter Forward keynote coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. I am Agnes Gathaya and I lead the Google East Africa team. It is our great pleasure to host you all for Flutter Forward. This is an amazing milestone. Africa is home to hundreds of thousands of developers who are part of the global community of builders. To be able to host you and the global developer community represents Google's continued commitment to Africa. This follows on the opening of a Google Artificial Intelligence Research Center in Accra, Ghana in 2019, a commitment in 2021 by Google's CEO Sundar Pichai to invest $1 billion in Africa's digital transformation, and most recently, the opening of Google's first product development center right here in Nairobi in 2020. I am thrilled to hear from our speakers about how Flutter is helping to shape the future of software development. Thank you again for joining us, or as we say in Kenya, Karibu.
Habari. Welcome to Nairobi, Kenya, home to more than 4 million people. It is a bustling hub of culture and people from many places around the world. We have a rich startup ecosystem here. More than 300 companies here have made it their mission to solve some of the most pressing and challenging needs of this growing economy, leveraging technology. Behind the innovation are more than 60,000 active developers in Kenya, a number which continues to grow year over year. These developers are part of a community of more than 700,000 developers across Africa and 26 million across the world. We've seen an acceleration of demand for developers in Kenya and across Africa over the last few years. This demand is fueled by the growth of the local startup ecosystem, increased internet usage by small businesses, and the global demand for remote tech talent. At Google, we strive to support developers across the world to build solutions that meet the needs of customers around the world. We provide this support through community initiatives like Google Developer Groups and our investments to build and evolve developer platforms and tools such as Flutter into the future. We can't wait to share what we're working on. So let's get started and Flutter forward.
Beached there until they die.
Yeah, because I'm on site.
Please welcome to the stage Tim Sneath.
I've been sent here by the Temple There is a giant creature washed ashore just south of Aberdeen that is ringed.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Karibu, to Flutter Forward, streaming live. Streaming live from Nairobi, Kenya. We are just so thrilled to be able to bring you a Flutter event from this beautiful location. It's been a dream of mine for years to bring a Flutter event to Africa. And I'm so thrilled that we're here in Nairobi this week to share a little bit about Flutter's progress and to point at some of the things that we're working on over the coming months. We named this event Flutter Forward because we want to show where we're going. And where better place to talk about the tech of tomorrow than the place of tomorrow?
Not ready yet.
You know, Africa is one of the fastest growing parts of the world for tech entrepreneurs. More than half of Africa's developer population work at startups, and international companies are recruiting African developers at record rates. Products like Flutter are flourishing here too. And Kenya has one of the largest developer populations in sub-Saharan Africa. And there are over 1,000 members in just the Flutter Kenya community. Okay, so over the next hour, we're going to cover Flutter's vision and its momentum to date. We're going to show you some fun examples of Flutter in action. We'll show you some tools that we think will help you be productive as a Flutter developer. And we're going to show you how we're going to invest in Flutter across web, mobile, and beyond for the future. So let's start by talking about our goals for Flutter. For those of you who haven't spent much time with Flutter, we're an open source, portable UI toolkit designed to enable beautiful, fast experiences on any platform. Too often today, designers and developers' creativity is constrained by technology limitations. But with Flutter, we want to unleash you to build, test, and deploy beautiful mobile, web, desktop, and embedded applications from a single code base. So since our first release, we've emphasized a few different key characteristics of Flutter that we think are core needs for any developer. Beautiful, having complete control over every pixel on the screen. Fast, compiling your app to machine code rather than running code through an interpreted environment. Productive, with technologies like stateful hot reload that let you see your changes as you're working. Portable, running the same on every one of the 6 platforms, so you can develop with flexibility. And of course, open. Flutter's free, it's open source. You don't have to pay for the tools, you don't have to guess what the code is doing, you can simply go and look at it. So, just over 4 years ago at Flutter Live, we introduced our vision to bring Flutter beyond mobile to desktop, web, and embedded. And last year we completed that journey with desktop. So we now have production support for 6 platforms, Android and iOS on mobile, and then the web, Windows, Mac OS, Linux. And then on top of that, we support others building embedders. And lots of others have done so, including Samsung for Tizen, and Sony and Toyota for different kinds of embedded Linux. And of course, Flutter has grown tremendously over those years. Right now, over 5 million Flutter developers have experienced Flutter since Flutter 1.0. And over 700,000 apps have been launched to date using Flutter. From small apps from entrepreneurs to those with over 1 billion downloads. And as GitHub noted in their recent Octaverse, Flutter is one of the top 3 open source projects by contributors. So, thank you. So, let's talk about Flutter today, both the latest releases and the tools and the ecosystem that power them. Anda, why don't you come and tell us about them?
Thank you, Tim. Now, are you ready to hit Flutter upgrade? All right. So I'm pleased to announce the availability of Flutter 3.7 and Dot 2.19, our latest stable releases. I'm going to talk about a few things that examples of what's new in Flutter. So we've enhanced Material 3 support, as you've heard already. And this includes migration of widgets such as radio buttons, sliders, and badges to Material 3. We have adaptive layouts, which enables your app's UI to automatically scale to look great on various screen sizes. We've got menu bars and cascading context menus, which are fully customizable to your app's needs. We've made Impeller, which is the graphics rendering engine that we've been building, available now as a preview for you to use in iOS versions of your app.
That ability isn't ready yet.
And to help you with the iOS app release process, the tool now validates some of the settings that you need to be configured before you actually submit to the App Store. We've also made several updates to DevTools, the suite of performance and debugging tools for both Flutter and Dart. And this includes a complete redesign of the memory debugging tool, and we've added new features to analyze the memory usage of your app. We've only spent a short time talking about Flutter 3.7 and Dart 2.19 today, because we've got a lot more to tell you about. So go to the post and read all about the details. Or you can read fast here. All right, so Flutter is not the only tool that Google makes or provides for you to build apps with. Firebase is, has more than 60% of Flutter developers using it today. And Firebase provides a suite of services such as hosting, analytics, crash reporting, authentication, and a lot more.
No, so at the moment it's in a stage where it's not too bad.
But you may be wondering, how hard is it to use Firebase in an app? So Eric, who I've been partnered with on building a new app, is going to show us what it's like to add authentication to a Flutter app with Firebase.
Yep, we're going to do that right now. You talk through the app we're building, and I will get ready here.
Okay, great. So we're going to switch to Eric's screen here, so, no pressure. So what Eric has on his screen here while he's setting up is it's an app that allows a user to browse and play from a selection of songs. But right now, as you can see, there's this login page, right? And something's happening behind that. And the reason is what we actually want to do here is add personalization to the app itself so that the user sees a personalized list. And at some future date, even want to add recommendations. So the first step is we want to allow users to log into this app with their Google account. So Eric is going to, you just have to do things like create an API endpoint on our server to validate the credentials, create a token from that, call the API from the Flutter app, create the sign-in UI, and we haven't even gotten to the OAuth flow setup. I mean, it's a lot of steps. And I'm sure you all know auth is hard, right? I mean, all of this is just the pre-work before we get to the core part of what we really want to build, which is the personalization for the sign-in user. And that's why we're going to, in the next few minutes, use Firebase to do that, so that Eric can get back to working on what we're really excited about.
Yeah, so let's get started. So Firebase has an official SDK for every product for Flutter, and you can see here that I've already added the ones that we need to the project. And we've also already gone to firebase.google.com, created a project. So all that's left is to configure it, and we can start writing code. So the first step is to just run Flutterfire configure. Make sure I spelled that right.
That ability isn't ready yet.
And
Not ready yet.
this will
That
first ask us
ability
what
isn't ready yet.
project we want to use. We only have one, so it's an easy choice.
I can't do that yet.
And this is going to be a mobile app, so
Not
we'll
ready
just
yet.
choose
I
Android and
can't do that
iOS.
yet.
And we are now registered with Firebase. And it's going to generate all the code we need so that whether we're running on iOS or Android, we know how to talk to Firebase, and that is all the configuration required.
What's next? All right, so let's start writing the actual code. So in the main.dot file, which Eric is going to right now, we're going to import the Firebase SDK and the config files that we just generated. And then we initialize Firebase. And this code reads the configuration for whichever platform the app is running on, which in our case would either be iOS or Android.
Yeah, so I've added that code. As you can see, it's just a couple lines, and we will now hot restart so that Flutter knows that we've loaded a Firebase app, and we'll hot restart once again for good luck. And we're now ready to start implementing the auth itself.
Good call. So the app itself is already ready to handle the two states we're interested in here, which is either the user is logged in or they're logged out. And the UI has, we have pages to show for each of those states.
Yes, so in order to know what state we're in, we're going to get the information from Firebase. And we're going to use this built-in stream here provided by Firebase that tells us when someone signs in or signs out.
Not ready yet.
So that's all we need that's the only business logic we really need. So what's next?
Okay, so now we need to do the actual sign-in UI and add a button. And for this, let's just use the built-in.
Not ready yet. I don't have a target. I can't do that yet. Not ready yet.